Right now, while you're sitting there watching this, something is moving underneath you. Not an earthquake, not water, something alive. There's a web of living threads under your feet so long that if you pulled it out of the ground and stretched it end to end, it would leave the solar system entirely and keep going. It's older than trees. It feeds almost every plant you've ever seen. It quietly runs the chemistry of the entire planet. And it is absolutely, definitely not a plant. It's fungi. And last month, for the very first time in history, we finally mapped the whole thing. And honestly, part of me kind of wishes we hadn't looked. Because here's the thing about fungi. They are not normal. We keep them in a nice little box in our heads. Mushroom on a pizza, mold on old bread, that thing between your toes you don't talk about. But a mushroom is just the tip. It's the fruit. The real organism lives underground, a sprawling net of threads called mycelium. And the moment you look at what it actually does, it gets strange, fast. Strange like this. A fungus is not a plant. On the tree of life, it branched off alongside animals, which means technically it is more closely related to you than it is to a tree. The largest single living thing on Earth? Not a whale, not a redwood. It's a fungus in Oregon. One individual spread across nearly 4 square miles, quietly eating a forest, and it's around 8,000 years old. There's a fungus that hijacks an insect's body, walks it to the perfect place to die, and then grows out of its corpse. Yeah, that one's real. The Last of Us didn't make it up. Some of them may even talk to each other, using electricity. And 9 out of every 10 plants on this planet, the crops you eat, the trees you sit under, the grass in your yard, rely on them to stay alive. And that is not even the strange part. The strange part is the scale. And until last month, nobody actually knew it. Because a fungus doesn't advertise. It has no body you can weigh, no border you can draw. It's just threads, everywhere, under everything, which makes it very hard to map and very easy to ignore. So a team of scientists set out to do the impossible thing. Draw the first global map of the fungal network under the entire planet. It came out in the journal Science last month, and the numbers are genuinely hard to hold in your head. In just the top 6 inches of soil, they estimate there are around 110 quadrillion kilometers of these living threads. That number is meaningless to a human brain, so stretch it out, and it's about 1 billion times the distance from here to the sun. Weigh it, and you get roughly 300 million tons of carbon, 4 to 6 times the weight of every human being alive today, combined. And it moves carbon. Every year, plants pump so much of it down into these fungi that it adds up to nearly 1/3 of humanity's entire fossil fuel output, handled quietly, underground, by mushrooms. So here's the frame. Whoever controls the infrastructure controls the system. The roads, the power grid, the internet, own those, and you own everything built on top. Fungi control the infrastructure of life on land, and it was never ours. By the end of this, I want you to actually see the thing you've been standing on your whole life, and maybe why we might need it to survive. But the story of how we even found this hidden kingdom is almost as strange as the kingdom itself. Rewind to 1885. A German botanist named Albert Frank gets a very specific, very German government assignment. The Prussian state would like him to grow better truffles. And while he's down in the dirt staring at tree roots, he notices something everyone else had waved off. The roots are wrapped in fungus, not attacked by it, partnered with it. He invents a word for the relationship, mycorrhiza, literally fungus root. And science basically pats him on the head. Sure, Albert, a plant teaming up with a fungus on purpose. Jump forward about a century to a Canadian scientist named Suzanne Simard. She runs a gorgeous experiment. She seals up little birch and fir seedlings, feeds them tagged carbon, and then tracks where that carbon actually goes. And it moves. Carbon flows out of one tree, through the fungal threads in the soil, and into a completely different tree. The trees were trading through the fungus. The press fell in love and gave it a name, the Wood Wide Web. The idea exploded. Giant mother trees feeding their shaded seedlings, forests sharing food, trees warning each other underground. It's a beautiful story. Documentaries, TED Talks, a best-selling novel. And here's where I have to be honest with you. In 2023, a group of scientists went back and audited the whole thing. Every study, every claim. Their conclusion was, roughly, everyone needs to calm down. Not that it's fake, but that the beautiful version, the trees talking and caring for each other version, had sprinted way out ahead of the actual evidence. A lot of the famous claims turned out to be thinner than the headlines made them sound. So the honest question, the one that survives the hype, is this. What do we actually know is going on down there? And the real answer is somehow stranger than trees having feelings. Start with the plant's problem. A root can only reach so far, and the things a plant is desperate for, phosphorus, nitrogen, are locked in the soil, just out of reach, in spots a root will physically never get to. So the plant cuts a deal. It hires the fungus. The fungus fires out those microscopic threads, hyphae, and they extend the plant's reach into the soil by 10 to 100 times. They mine the nutrients the root can't touch and hand deliver them. And they do not do this out of kindness. In return, the plant pays the fungus in carbon, sugar built from sunlight. The plant runs the solar panels, the fungus runs the supply chain, and they trade all day, every day, underground. But here's the part that genuinely rearranged my brain. It's not just a trade, it's a market. The fungus keeps track of who pays well. Scientists tagged nutrients with glowing particles and watched, and the fungus shifts its phosphorus toward the plants that give it the most carbon. It rewards its best customers. And the plants that try to lowball it, it quietly cuts them off. There is a brainless organism under your lawn running supply and demand, rewarding good partners, starving the cheats, moving resources to wherever the price is best. No brain, no eyes, just business. Okay, back to that map, because now you know what they were really measuring, the size of the largest trade network on Earth. And how they built it is a little unhinged. They pulled together hundreds of separate studies, tens of thousands of soil samples from every corner of the planet. They built a robot whose entire job was to measure the width of fungal threads, threads thinner than a human hair, and it took over 300,000 measurements. Then they fed all of it into machine learning and predicted the density of this network across basically every scrap of land on Earth. And that's how you land on the number. 110 quadrillion kilometers, 300 million tons of carbon, several times the weight of humanity living in the dirt, holding the surface world up. Oh, and one more thing they found. The densest fungal networks on the planet aren't in some untouched rainforest. They're under grasslands. The boring fields you drive past without a thought. Turns out those are the server farms. Now, remember the fungus that hijacks insects? I have to come back to it because it's worse and better than you think. It's called Ophiocordyceps, A spore lands on an ant, burns through its shell, and grows inside it. And for years, we assumed it took over the ant's brain. It doesn't. It wraps around the ant's muscles and works them directly, like a puppeteer on strings, while the ant's own brain is still in there, fully awake, along for the ride. It forces the ant to climb to a very exact height, about a foot off the ground, and clamp onto a leaf vein in a death grip, at precisely the temperature and humidity the fungus prefers. Then it kills the ant and sprouts a stalk out of its head to rain spores down on the ants walking below. So, good news and bad news. Bad news. The Last of Us is loosely based on something completely real. Good news. It absolutely cannot do that to you. Your body runs too hot. The fungus would basically cook, and your immune system plays in a different league than an ant's. You're safe. Probably. And if fungi are starting to feel a little alien, good. The oldest fungal fossils we've found are around 1 billion years old. They were here before plants, before animals, before almost anything you'd recognize. Some of them glow in the dark. And after all this time, we've formally named maybe a few % of the species actually out there. The rest? Still down there, nameless, doing whatever it is they do. And this is the part that actually gets to me. We built our entire civilization, our farms, our forests, our food, our climate, on top of an organism we barely understand and mostly ignore. Fungi make up something like 16 times more of Earth's living diversity than plants do, and the science that studies them runs on a fraction of the funding. This whole secret ruler thing, I've been having fun with it. But here's the honest version. The fungus isn't plotting anything. It's not evil. It's not scheming under your garden. It's just quietly holding the entire system together, the way it has for hundreds of millions of years, while we walk around on top, genuinely not noticing. And somehow, that's the part that unsettles me more. Which matters, because we're damaging it without even seeing it. Modern farming, the plowing, the fertilizer, the fungicide, roughly halves the fungal network in the soil it touches. We're erasing the infrastructure blind, one field at a time. But it's not all grim. In 2024, at a UN Biodiversity Summit, Chile and the UK pushed through a pledge to finally protect fungi in law as their own kingdom of life, standing beside animals and plants. More than 12 countries have signed on, and we're learning to work with the network instead of against it. Farmers are putting these fungi back into their soil and pulling more crops out of it with less fertilizer while locking carbon back into the ground. There are startups literally selling the stuff. The same hidden network we almost ignored to death might turn out to be one of the best tools we have for feeding people and cooling the planet. So, next time you're standing in a field or a forest or just your own backyard, think about what's under your feet. The oldest, largest, busiest network on Earth. It was quietly running this place hundreds of millions of years before we showed up. And it'll still be down there, trading phosphorus, long after we're gone. I love stories like this, the ones that make the ground feel a little more alive than it did this morning. And I didn't even get to the fungus that turns cicadas into flying spore cannons. That's a whole other nightmare. Maybe next time. So if this made you look at the dirt a little differently, subscribe, because next time we're going somewhere just as strange. And tell me in the comments, which one of these actually creeped you out the most? Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.